So, okay, so thanks everybody again for coming today. This is good. We're getting our viewers up a little bit here. It's the highest number I've started with. Usually it starts to build. So it's still a very, it's new, but there's a lot of people on Blab, but it's still a very new thing, right? So anyway, so Walter is supposed to be joining us again soon, but right now I have Bryan Smith with us from Bluetrain, so I'm just going to give him a couple of seconds, minutes, I don't know, to introduce himself and his company and let you guys know what he does and why he's here today, because he's got some expertise that you might need. So go ahead, Bryan.
Sure. I'm just Bryan Smith, owner and president of Bluetrain. So Bluetrain's a digital marketing agency in Edmonton, Alberta, and what our focus is helping build an online presence for a client through different channels such as search engine marketing, all types of different online advertising, content strategy, social media, as well as kind of the analytics, the measurement and reporting across all of those. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis, and it's our business models kind of work ongoing with clients. So we have clients that we've worked with for years, and we started this business about 9 years ago. So that's what we do.
It's really been that long?
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
That means I must have known you for what, about 5 years now?
Yeah, we started in January 2007 was when Bluetrain began.
Yeah, so yeah, that means that we must have met for the first time 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
That's insanity. Like, wasn't it like just last year? Anyway.
Time flies, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're doing today is we're just going to have a little bit of fun. I mean, Bryan, I'm sure, has some things that he'd like to talk about that's coming up in 2016 that he sees going on, and I've got some topics, but we're also really, really encouraging all of you to just come in with your questions. You can ask to come up on the screen. Just when you do that, just leave me a little quick message about what you want to talk about or what the question is that you want to ask. So we just have a couple of seconds to kind of prepare for that so we can answer your questions better. So instead of just, trying to wing it for 100% of the time. I have no idea where Walter is. This happened last week too. He came in, I think he came in like 15 minutes late. He said he just couldn't sign in for some reason. It just wasn't letting him do anything. So
that's funny.
I have no idea. So anyway, yeah. So what we just went over, like I just wrapped up a big, huge, like month-long thing talking about the importance of planning, like the strategic planning stuff, and how you have to have like your business plan and your analytics and building all of that up. So right now we're trying to get more into like the more creative side of things and talking about the actual marketing aspects. Eventually we're going to get on to like specific platforms and that sort of thing. I think I sent you some of the outlines, but today it's just marketing in general. So the whole thing is just up in the air and open for discussion. So is there anything that you'd like to lead with? I always leave it open to my co-hosts.
I think we actually, it's kind of timely, I guess. It depends on the viewership, but obviously we're here in Alberta, and our company actually just posted a post today about kind of 6 considerations for marketing to apprehensive Albertans, and so that's something we could definitely touch on a little bit, is just for the companies that maybe are in tougher times, or the economy's a little bit rougher, what some things they may want to consider. We could definitely touch on that. Obviously, anything related to digital marketing, we can talk a bit about too. But so that's a few thoughts that I don't know if that is in line with what you have in mind.
Economy is probably a really good one, just because we have viewers when they start to come in a little bit more. We've had viewers come in from Ireland, other parts of the UK. Okay. Some Middle Eastern viewers and that sort of thing. But I think everybody, no matter where you are in the world, is kind of feeling the financial crunch. Mind you, I was just talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about exchange rates. I don't think anybody's feeling it quite as hard as Canada is.
Yeah, that might be a little bit of a different scenario for sure.
Yeah, apparently our dollar is trading to the euro at something like $1 to $2 and something. Like it's more than double a little bit. Yeah. So I'm really rethinking those plans for London this summer if this doesn't start to clear up. But so yeah, that's a really, and you know what? One of the biggest points that I always have when it comes to tough economies and marketing is something I'm actually happy to say I haven't been noticing here this time around so much. But it always seems like when economies start to shrivel, marketing budgets dry up.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Oh, we don't need that. We don't need. But the thing is, if you're not putting your name out, you're not putting your stuff out there, you're not doing something to get in front of people. Like, how do you expect to sell stuff? How do you expect to generate revenue, right?
Well, and that's a huge aspect of what we've been talking a bit about a couple different posts on our blog. Is exactly that challenge, obviously, and we see it with we have about let's say 40 or so ongoing clients, and so we have these real discussions with them all the time, and a lot of times you see kind of two types of company. I'll use my hands. One is the company that's driven more from a sales marketing type of executive, and they're a little bit more likely to see it as potential market share opportunity, or at the very least they understand the power of at least trying to sustain their level of marketing so that they don't have as long of a period after to recover, right? But on the flip side, you definitely see those companies that are much more traditionally driven by either a board of directors or more of a financial mindset, accounting and CFO. They are more likely to just look at pure financials, look at where variable costs are, and marketing is a variable cost. And of course, that's always an opportunity to cut, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, too often we see things that, sometimes, a decision like that is made and they're cutting something that from an analytics perspective has proven time and time again to have positive ROI. So you're cutting something that you're proving with data always works from an ROI perspective and makes no sense, right? But they're not looking at that. They're just looking at the number in the financials and the expenses, right? So so that's the thing that we try and flag and kind of warn people to is don't just look at the cost. Look at the opportunity and look at the just being and just how you're doing marketing should change. And so I think a few of the examples in what the post is talking about is yes, times are tougher and you got to be smarter with your money. So being more targeted, more research, more segmenting, that's really what you should be doing. Not necessarily completely taking away your marketing efforts, right? The other thing that we really are big proponents of is understanding how the mindset of your audience has changed, right? They may have been way more, as an example, that in the past maybe the general consumers were a lot more willing to take risks and try new things and more adventurous, and so that was okay to be a little bit more edgy with some of your tone. But now everyone, including people that are doing sales, except everyone's a little bit more conservative, a little bit more risk averse, and so your messaging has to change. Like it has to be matching that type of consumer. And one thing that we talk about a lot, and you'll read other reports about, is family values matter a lot more in this type of period, right? Because you're trying to go back to the protective, what's most important. You got to at least protect your family, right? So you're not able to buy the ATV, but you got to make sure you still have your house, right? So
there is a lot of that kind of decision making going on.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So then how does your marketing message need to change? So here's a quick example, for in this market is I was talking to someone that works at a regional bank, that's kind of based out of Alberta. And they were kind of comparing to their messaging and how they want to start to change it because of the economy versus the national banks, which are still kind of pushing give us your money and open a new account. People don't have money to open a new account. Yeah. So why are you pushing that message, right? So that's just an example of, the opportunity that if you can be that at the forefront, be a little bit more progressive and understand how your audience has changed. And I think you can be a lot more effective with your marketing, right? So.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because the thinking changes quite a bit depending on what's in our bank accounts. So
Yeah.
like I know, just over the last couple of years, right, the whole focus has been, don't focus on money, don't focus on, your cost, you give the value that you give and everything like that. Don't make it about money. But you know what, in these kind of economies, that's all anybody's thinking about is budget. So what are you going to give them? Like, what value are you going to give them for, so now it does really come down more than just, are you the only one, or what makes you different? Now it comes down to the value that you're offering. And so you do, in a way, now we do kind of have to go back to that old way of thinking and start focusing on, okay, so we need to pay our bills. And of course, we're in business, we want to make a profit, but at the same time, we have to offer a product in such a way that it's affordable to everybody and everybody feels like they're getting a good enough value so that they refer us and we can do more business.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, what you just said there kind of puts on that path of, it's not just about understanding the changes of the messaging, and it's also about understanding your product and service offering, whatever you're selling, and how what your top products and services are might be different now. I think that's really essential to evaluate. The thing that you've been pushing for the last 3 years and has been a top seller, that may not be your top seller right now, and you have to adjust. That's, there's tons of examples out there, but just for even myself, marketing a digital marketing service, it's less likely that someone's going to go for a full meal deal of, amazing discovery through extensive strategy and all this research, and right. That's less likely in today's market versus let's start with an audit, right? So some of those smaller, easier to start with chunks are going to be a lot more successful in today's than they were in the past, right? Where, you may have been able to sell that much more premium, bigger, offering. So I think, that's something that has to be looked at. You have to look at your products and talk to your customers and understand that, if you're selling equipment, for example, maybe you have to put way more effort on your, the used equipment versus the new equipment, or you have to put way more effort on, the lower end version versus the high end version. And, there's going to be changes, and even pricing, although it's not something that, you don't want to do aggressively, because again, it's one of those things that can set a bad precedent for coming out of the recovery. You still have to be smart and look at, do we need to shave 10% on certain items? Maybe not everything, but some of these more extra accessories, we could, it's not our core offering, but we could afford to shave a bit here and help out the customer. All of that has to be looked at, right? So,
or is there something that we can add on to it to make it a greater value without
exactly.
Get
another 1 hour of free training, or for sure. I think that's crucial. How do you make that value a little bit bigger for the same dollar amount in the client's eyes, right, or the customer's eyes? So
and it is very much, especially in our arena right now, I'm finding it's very much more kind of what I would call piecemeal. So instead of like being hired to do, these big, huge things, it's kind of like, well, I need somebody to help me with social media, but, like 15 hours a week kind of thing, because I can still fill in a little bit too. And it's not optimal, but hey, at least there's still something that, like, they still recognize that some professional help is good.
Yes.
Like way back in the first, like the 80s and stuff like that, it was not, I was still a kid, so it's okay.
Just to be clear.
Just to clear that up. But I've heard a lot of stories from people who have been in business for a long time, especially in the marketing arena, that back in the 80s, when the first really big dip like this happened in our economy, like marketing companies, ad agencies, content agencies, not copyright agents, they were all going out of business because the big companies were like, no, we can't afford that now.
Right.
And they just cut their marketing budgets. Now I'm not seeing that as much. Like, there's definitely some scaling back. With smaller budgets all around, each faction is going to get a little bit less. But I'm still seeing, potential new clients, and startups. Like, we've seen a huge increase in startups. They're the statistics.
Which makes sense because you've been laid off or something, and this is the time to try something new. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And there's no jobs, and you've got your severance package, and why not take that risk now? Like, what have you got to lose now, right? So I was reading an article a couple of days ago that actually said that business licenses in the Edmonton area here have like doubled in 1 month.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah,
so now
that's a neat thing.
Yeah, it's really cool, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, now I got to find out, how many of those were marketing agencies.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Oh, more competitors. Yeah. No, it's healthy. It's healthy though, because as you know, like running a business is hard. So it doesn't mean, the more people I get in the market, there's more people that get educated and better training, and half of those or more are going to end up, being employees again at some point, right? So it's still healthy for everyone that they're staying active than just sitting around or so.
Oh yeah, I think. Sorry, I was just going to say, and in the long run too, it actually makes the industry, like each of those industries, healthier themselves, because with that amount of competition, that we have to kind of sharpen our swords and be better, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think, like just to echo what you're saying, I think I've seen the exact same thing where it's, I think I've almost had in this kind of past fall probably a busier kind of sales activity level than I would have said, the past couple of years at the same time. Just as many or more proposals and all that, but the difference is the sales cycle is slower, more conservative, right? So that's a big change. And as well as there's definitely more concerted effort at cutting things down to a lower scope. So those are the two things that are definitely happening, but still lots of activity. Like you said, there's still lots of interest in sales, and so that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, and I was really surprised too, because we're hearing all these reports coming out of Calgary about, the high-end restaurants are shutting down and stuff. But I was at the Workshop Eatery last night, and they're actually saying that they expect their January to be better than their December was, which is almost unheard of in the restaurant industry. So that was really good. That was
that's neat. So maybe you can maybe we can kind of build off what you did in the last kind of segment. So you did a lot of planning. So I guess the next things to talk from a marketing 101 is kind of what's next, right? So
yeah, well, that's just it. Sorry, I'm just gonna ask Lisa something here. I can do it on the screen too, but
Hi, Lisa.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
We're just talking about the economy. So I think, like from our perspective, if it helps, like because we go through obviously the planning stage. So usually we're starting always with that upfront discovery. Move into extensive strategy and planning, and a big part of that is understanding your audience, like the personas, if you want to call it, or the target audiences, really nailing that down with the different groups. So then you can create those very specific sales funnels, if you want to call it, for each of the groups, right? What do you need to do for awareness? What do you need to do for, getting them closer to buyer intent? And then what do you need to do to close them? And I assume that's kind of what you've been talking about in the planning stage. And so once you have that, it's really about then building out a calendarized plan and budget that matches that, and then starting to implement.
We haven't gotten into like the CRM discussion and all that kind of stuff yet, but it's coming. Yeah, a lot of the planning that we've been talking about is really about setting goals and like where we want companies to go to, and how we know like who our audience is, and like just gathering that analytical information and using that so that we know that our goals are realistic and that we can get there, so that we have an effective marketing plan.
Right.
We haven't gotten into sales funnels and stuff like that. Of course, that's all going to be part of it, but I got a whole year of this to do, so I'm trying to stretch it out a little bit.
No, fair enough.
Yeah. So, but feel free, go ahead. It's open day today, so.
Yeah, well, I can touch on a little bit on different channels, I guess, from a digital perspective, but just to give some examples, so if once you've nailed down those, your audience, you've done that research and that analysis, and you're pretty confident that you've got, these 3 to 5 different customer types. And so it's, as an example, 35 to 55-year-old, female stay-at-home mom, and they like fine wine and SUVs or whatever it may be. And you've really nailed down that profile, and where they likely are out in the world versus, in terms of what they read, where they shop, where they're going to online. Do they read Huffington Post? Do they read TMZ? The more you know.
A great market, because it means they'll buy just about anything.
That's right. The more you know about, that audience type, the better, because then you can proceed with those next steps of, okay, where are you, in terms of, do people know your brand? If not, well, you got to build some awareness, right? So how do you build awareness with that specific segment? So, a normal example is, a little bit about kind of their demographics and interests, and then you can do some advertising to that, as well as some content marketing and blogging, etc. So if we take that same example about, a stay-at-home mom and certain age groups, and some of their interests related to what you offer, well, okay, put a content plan together of writing posts on your blog specific to that audience, answering the questions that audience is going to have, right? And then follow that up with things like, very common example is, okay, they come, they read your blog. Maybe now we've added them to what's called a retargeting list, right? Retargeting is advertising to people that have been to your website. So now we know that we have content related to this segment. We know we've gotten them to our website. They've read this post about, that interest subject matter. So we're pretty sure it's relevant traffic and relevant people. Okay. And now we're building a list because we've added them into our retargeting list. And now we can advertise to them over whatever your sales cycle is, let's say 30 to 90 days, wherever they go. So now they're on Global TV or Huffington Post, or they're reading YouTube and watching some videos, and your ad for that next level of interest is showing. So maybe the next level is downloading a white paper on XYZ, or come and check out our video guide on learning blah blah blah. Whatever it may be, to take them that little bit further down the sales funnel. They're not ready to buy yet. You're just building trust with them, but you're giving them something a lot more tangible than that original blog post, that they can actually get a little bit deeper and learn more about you and whatever you're offering, right?
Yeah.
So you bring them back with that ad, and usually now you're at a level where they're willing to give you some information. So now they got to give you their email or whatever to get that download or whatever it may be. So that's where, like you talked about, that's where the CRM may come in, right? So now you've captured them. Now they're in your system. Now how do you get them to the close, right? And that's usually where there's multiple facets of, some email marketing, for sure, is usually part of that. Maybe you have their phone number, and maybe it's even getting to that level where you're doing a demo of something. And also there's always that more direct marketing, on a digital side. For us, it would be like search advertising, right? Mm-hmm. Now they're knowledgeable. You've educated them on certain things, and now they're searching very specific things. So if they searched, what's an example? I don't know. They're ready to buy they're ready to buy those green X5000 yoga pants. They search something very specific like that. Well, then you have this beautiful landing page targeted at that exact product to make them buy your product, right? Yeah. So that's kind of that's a very weird example maybe, but it walks you through from that real high level awareness to getting them down that funnel, right? And so that's what you're trying to do with each of your audience types, because every audience is going to be totally different. You might have an audience that maybe you're a retailer, and so a lot of your audience is consumers, but you might have also a segment that is B2B, because you're having some sales reps that represent your product and do home shows or whatever it may be, right?
There's a lot of clothing lines that do that.
Yeah, that's a very different segment, very, very different segment. With that might be a segment where you're doing something on Facebook or LinkedIn and targeting very specific types of professionals. So that's why it's so valuable to go through the steps of identifying those different audiences, so that you can do very different marketing approaches for each one.
Yeah. That's pretty much what we've been talking about up to this point. Just saying, you know, like stressing the importance, because I don't know about you, but I mean, I do some digital marketing, but predominantly like we're online more in the capacity like of websites and that sort of thing, and I do a lot of social media. I'm not like full scale digital. But I also do event marketing too. So I do a lot of the offline stuff too. I love having experiences with products, and events are, you know, that's just the best way I found to do it. You get 100 people in the room and boom, there you are.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But yeah, I've been trying to, because I have been hearing since I started in the marketing, which was, oh my goodness, I'm not 9 years like you, but I think I'm about 4 or 5 years now. I've been in the marketing arena, and everybody always says to me, well, not always, but, oh, you're in marketing, it must be so nice to be, you know, creative all the time and everything. And I think people have this misconception that, well, we're in marketing, so we just sit down in front of our computers and do some things on Facebook and magic happens, right?
Yeah.
So I really wanted to let people know, I really wanted to give people the idea that, you know what, it's the beginning of a new year, so let's do this right. And as much as you would love to just jump in and start being creative and throwing out ideas and all those magical unicorn things, we plan. We have to plan. Because you can have the most phenomenal marketing plan like ever developed in the, you know, the free world. But if you're not presenting it to the right people, it's not going to succeed. So, you know.
I wholeheartedly agree. Like social media is a great example of that, and in that it's kind of become, you know, very kind of baseline that, you know, everyone's doing social media usually now, but they're definitely not doing it effectively. Like, how often do you hear of, you know, that they've been, you know, that they have a bunch of followers, they've been really active, they've done a bunch of posts, which is great, but they've gotten nothing from it that they can really tangibly directly tie to whatever they're actually selling as a business. That's very, very common story. And it's often because there was no strategic thought to, you know, what they're doing on social media, right? They just did it for doing its sake and did it to get followers and more for ego. And it wasn't really in a way to like go take customers through a sales funnel and there's lots of other reasons for social. Like, so I'm not saying that's the only reason, but a lot of times when you talk to business, one of the reasons that they think they're doing it is to get business. And often that's the one that they're completely failing on. They may have gotten followers, and so maybe more people know their brand, but they're not tying that into actually getting any results for their business. So that's very common. And like you said, a big reason for that is they haven't really thought through their different segments. They're just kind of generally throwing stuff out there in a shotgun manner. There's no approach behind it, right?
Yeah. How many events have you been sitting at the table, and there's 8 people at the table, so 7 including, you know, plus yourself, and the discussion opens up about what social media platform somebody's trying right now and how you should do that too, because wow, they're getting such a great response and you should just jump on there. And then you hear from somebody else at the table, oh, I don't know, I don't have enough time, I feel like I'm just failing at it because I'm on this one and this one and this one, and I just can't be consistent and nothing's coming from it, and you know, blah 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 blah. Oh well, trust me, if you get onto this one, it's the new thing, like it'll happen, it'll be like you'll have followers, you'll, you know, all this other stuff. And you just kind of sit at the table going, but is his target market, his or her target market on that social media platform?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. That's it. Yeah, like Snapchat or Instagram. Like, yeah, there's some great social channels, but they're for different audiences for sure. And yeah, no, that's a huge part of it for sure. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, I was good. Sorry. I was just gonna say, if I had a nickel for every time somebody told me I should be on Snapchat, Really? Explain to me
That's
why.
funny.
Because, like, how many teenagers need digital marketing or graphic design services? I mean, I'm not saying that there's entrepreneurs are getting younger, and there's a great youth movement out there, and that's phenomenal. But for the most part, they rely on each other to get things done because they don't have any budgets.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no, yeah, and it's the same for a vast majority of our clients. It's not the right channel at all yet. Doesn't mean we need to, like, we've had clients in the past that their market has been university students, and obviously that's a different story. But a lot of our clientele, that's not the case. Their market is not that demographic, right? So yeah, no, it's very important to. Oh, it looks like Walter's joining us.
Walter's popping in soon here, yeah. So
there you go. That's cool. I don't know. Would you like to talk more about anything specific in terms of, it's marketing 101. That could go anywhere, but what is there? Is there anything specific types of marketing you want to talk about? And I didn't say at the beginning, but just from a context perspective, I'm comfortable talking about non-digital as well, even though that's
I have to admit we usually have more people on and come in, like, usually by now we've talked to like about 3 people, so maybe it's just because it's a new concept for my show. We're doing this every month though, so we had a really cool kid last pop in from France actually, and he's a marketing student in France. And we were talking about the importance of having like accountability partners. And, I wanted to take it a step further and also talk about collaborations, but we didn't have time to do that. But he popped in and he was saying, that he didn't think that it was necessary to have those people that would help us plan and help keep us on track and that sort of thing, because we're the marketers, like we're supposed to be doing that for other people. And I was like, yeah, but I kind of put it to him, I said, but you're in university, right? And you have professors, right? And so they give you assignments and they give you deadlines by when they're supposed to be done. And what happens when you don't have them done on time? And he goes, oh yeah, I kind of get that, right? And but to take that a step further, I really believe that having collaborations is a great way of also having kind of built-in accountability partners. But it's also at the same time, you also get to build your business and help build somebody else's business. But you still also have those people because their business is partly also dependent on if this happens or not. So they're going to ride your keister, right? They're going to be like, hey, did you get this done? When are you going to get me this information? And you're riding their butts, going, hey, where's that stuff? We need to get this moving, right?
That's funny. Yeah, I had that exact discussion yesterday because we're looking at building a new website, and so we're going to work with one of our partners to do that. Obviously, we're going to take on all the planning and the content architecture and all that kind of stuff. But it's still nice to have that partner giving you a deadline and saying, I need this by this date, because you're focused on your core work for your customer base, and it can always kind of you can always sacrifice it for that, right? So that's essential. But I even find it as a little bit off topic, but I even find it as a business owner that hey Walter, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. But I even find it just as a business owner, for non-marketing things, just generally business improvements as a whole, if you have some key strategies that are crucial to your business, it's great to have another mentor or even just a peer that holds you accountable and you meet with once or twice a month and say, is that done yet, Bryan? Right. And that's huge, to be in a group like that can hold each other accountable. That's, I think, super, super valuable. So
I love
a little bit off topic, but I think it's about getting results and
because there's different types of collaboration.
That helps get you results.
Well, and there is different types of collaboration, so that wasn't off topic. Like, you don't always have to be like a business collaboration. You can be like a think tank collaboration or whatever, right? So anyway, I'm just going to switch over really quick here. Hey, Walter, had troubles getting in again today, hey?
I did, yeah. You know what? I was out shopping. I really apologize for that.
Well,
I just got home and I was like, oh, it's time to get on Blab. So.
Well, Walter, meet Bryan. Bryan, meet Walter.
Hi, Bryan.
And all of our viewers today, thank you for joining us. So, unfortunately, we'll have to get into what you do in a little bit. Walter's kind of an internet marketer, coach. He does coaching for people. Yeah. So we're just talking a little bit about collaborations and all that other kind of stuff right now. But yeah, because I brought up that student that just popped in last week that was from France or is in France, and was talking. When we were talking about the accountability, he had an opposite point from us. So yeah, so that's just where we were going with that. Anyway, so I guess now's a good time for a switch in topic. Let's see what I've got. Was there anything that you wanted to bring up today, Walter? Or now that you're here,
what's the topic now? Marketing 101 open mic.
Yeah, we're just talking about marketing in general and asking if anybody's got questions. They can put them up on the screen, and we'll do our best to answer them for you.
Well, it's your show. I'll let you decide what you want to change it to.
Oh, sure. Now you put me on the spot. Oh my goodness! I tell you, okay. Time to check the time.
I'm only the co-host here, you know. So, no, I'm only. Yeah. You know what? I don't know. Anything marketing, I suppose, right?
Well, actually, you know what? One thing I would love to discuss, because I've been approached by so many of these people lately. Now, I get the importance of referral business. You have to have a referral network. You have to, because you get that kind of collaboration again on that side of things, and it's great to be able to refer back and forth. But I keep getting approached by these groups, these organizations like BNI, ProNet was one of them. I'm trying to think of a few others of them. I've had experience with BNI in the past. We won't get into that, like if it was successful or not. But what are your guys' take on that? Like, do you find that joining these groups, like if these specific referral networks are effective in marketing your business, or do you find that more open opportunity is better when it comes to that? Because that's a part of your marketing plan, right?
I think it kind of comes back, like, Walter, just to catch you up, like we were talking at the beginning a lot about personas and like audience targeting, right? And so I think this is kind of the same thing. Like, if you're going to join a BNI group or something like that, it's all going to be based on is your audience there, or do you think you can somehow connect to your audience through those people? I find a big part of it is it's not about what the group brand is, if it's BNI or BOB or Rotary or whatever it may be. It's really about looking at who's in that group. Like because every group is so different, and there's different. It sounds bad, but it's different quality levels of people in the groups. So I think you really have to assess very carefully, because otherwise you're committing a lot of time every single week to something that's not going to add value. So you need to really be sure of that the group that you're looking at joining has great people for your needs and in terms of network. The only other comment I would make, though, is if you have a type of business that is fairly, like needed by most people, then a lot of those groups are really good, because even if the one individual in that group doesn't need your type of service, they may know 10 to 20, 100 people that do. With what I do, which is a more premium, advanced kind of digital marketing, it's very likely that even if there's 10 people in the group, it's still possible, depending on who they are, that they still may not know the right people for what I sell, right? So that's where, like, I've found for myself, for what my target market is, I find it's better to go into more entrepreneur type or owner type peer network groups rather than just a networking group. Because a networking group could just have any salesperson, any sales rep. It's not necessarily a decision maker. And so that doesn't help me if I'm in there with a bunch of insurance and mortgage and real estate sales reps. Again, that maybe sounds a bit harsh, but that's just my experience. But at the flip side, I am in some peer groups, but they're all like owner peer groups. And those have been very helpful for my business, not always sales, but just helpful in general to my business as a whole. So
okay. And Walter, you coach people. So is this something that you recommend to people who are looking to you for, how are they going to grow their business and how are they going to do their marketing properly? Have you ever found that you do this kind of that you recommend this a lot or not so much? Or
Yeah, I would recommend that, definitely. I mean, it's important to connect with people and get yourself out there. So yeah, I would highly recommend that.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm kind of with Bryan on this one, just because my experience was you can put a ton of money in and not necessarily, you need to be looking also not just at how many people you can refer to, but are you at least going to break even? Like, is it going to actually make a difference to your business, right? I did not break even. We won't go into it. But there's so many different groups out there. And really getting, I guess now with the economy the way that it is, everybody thinks that this is going to be something that we just, inherently want to do and to be a part of. I found that when I was in BNI, the people that had the best results were like lawyers, bookkeepers, accountants, those really traditional roles. The marketing people, not so much. The personal services people, definitely not. There was a couple of concierge services that were like the care services at large, I guess, basically like they're assistants of one sort or another, right? There was 2 or 3 of them in different groups, and all of them had a horrendous experience because people couldn't grasp what they did, because their service base is, personal assistant means so much to so many people, and because they were so focused on those traditional roles, they had the people in the group seriously just had trouble even comprehending what those businesses were, let alone how to refer them. So it wasn't that they were deliberately not helpful. They just didn't know how to help. So it was clearly not their target market whatsoever. Like, to be in those.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And cost point too. Like sometimes those groups, like I said, I found that they're just at a totally different cost point if they're not the right level of companies and decision makers. So that's tough too. And there a lot of times, like I find that a lot of times everyone's interested in what we do, but no one can afford it, right? And so that's not the right group.
Have you ever had that? I don't know how. I've got this one woman in my network, and she's hilarious. I mean, I love her to bits, but she's so funny, because I cannot tell you how many times she said to me, yeah, I've got this business, and she's got a really, really cool business, actually. It's kind of morbid, but it's really cool. She does hand-blown glass, right? And so it's really pretty, but she turns them into vases, however, vases, whatever, potato. But they're urns for deceased pets. Right? So, but then that way you can have it in your home. You've got your beloved pet once they've expired in your home, but nobody knows because it looks like a decorative piece. Like, they're really, really pretty pieces that you can actually use as part of your decor, and nobody knows what it is. So she's got this really, really cool product. She's been working on it for 2 or 3 years now. And I keep saying, well, why don't you try, like, there's crematoriums, like, and the pet industry is $1 billion industry. Like, honestly, it is a massive, I think it's just below porn. There's porn, then there's pets. And I'm not going to make any correlations. But she keeps saying to me, well, I know I'm working on my own website right now and everything like. She goes, I know someday I'm gonna, soon I'm gonna need something more professional. It's just, I just can't afford your kind of services right now. Well, she's never even asked me how much my services cost. How does she know if she can afford me or not? And I think that there's a lot of misconception about that too. And people just have this natural assumption that they don't know. That they just think that we have to cost an absolute fortune, and they don't seem to understand that, we're a service provider. Yes, we have value in our services, but you can't just make an assumption about it. But I found that a lot in the groups that I have attended, even just as a guest. There's this idea that, oh, that's an agency, or that's a professional service. Oh, they're going to be so expensive. And it's like, no, ask questions, find out before you make that assumption.
One thing I don't know if it's on your minds as well, but it might, Walter, I don't know I'm not sure. You have to let us know what the economy is like there, but we were talking a little bit about marketing in a tougher economy, and one thing that we didn't touch on that I'd be interested to talk to you, because it's relevant even in a good economy, is marketing beyond your location, right? That's a big discussion right now for a lot of companies and even our clients in Alberta is, okay, we've done well in our market. Right now that market's very dry. How do we start now marketing in the US, for example? Dollar's low. We want to start to get some clients or, sell some products in the US. We've never done it before. So I'd be interested to hear if you're hearing some of the same discussions happening, and then kind of some approaches there.
That's a good point, Brian. Yeah, I am actually. Yeah, because the Canadian dollar is only 72 cents now to the US dollar.
Could be lower.
Yeah,
I think it's lower.
Lower than that, 70 cents. I don't know. Yeah, right now, because I live in Canada, the economy is not so great right now. And right. I'm finding that I use a lot of products from the U.S. like AWeber, and I have to pay that, in American money. So,
yes.
It's costing me more, And another thing is I live on an island. I live in Newfoundland, so it's an island. So they have to ship everything here either by plane or by boat. And they have to up the prices on everything. That includes oil and fuel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This definitely the software is a big one for us too. Like all the software we use is usually US based for sure.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
But the good news
is,
sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was gonna say, so Shannon, do you have much experience with some of what you're doing for targeting beyond kind of the Edmonton and Alberta area?
Yeah, definitely. I have to say, I've done fairly good, just focusing on the local businesses and that sort of thing up to this point in time. But this year I'm definitely seeing a bigger need to branch that out. And I'm actually looking at, in a way, the lower dollar is a bit of an opportunity because, I'm redoing, is it really? 71 cents?
Wow.
Okay, it's higher than fun. Because the last I heard it was like 60 cents or something. But anyway.
That's what Google tells me, but it could be wrong.
No, Google is never wrong, Brian.
That's what I say, man.
But anyway, so I'm finding it myself as I'm trying to use it a little bit to my advantage. So now I can market my services in the U.S. and because I charge Canadian dollars, I'm still charging fair market value, but it's less for the Americans to hire me now, right? Than it is to hire Americans. And we're in a digital age, so you can hire anybody you want anywhere, like in the world, because everything we can do online. So, even when it comes to graphic design and stuff like that, it's like email transfer. It can be done anywhere, from anywhere. So I'm seeing that as an opportunity myself, and I'm actually redoing. I've been talking about this. I will have that website ready for you soon, people. I will. I hate coding, and I'm doing my own website. I usually have my actual web designer do it, but he's so busy right now that I was like, oh, it's okay, I'll do it myself. But I hate coding with a passion. So I'm aiming for the end of the month because I'm just down to coding out my galleries. Which, of course, you leave the worst for last, right? So,
yeah, no, exactly.
Anyway, but yeah, definitely. And I'm seeing a lot, I know a lot of local retailers and that sort of thing. And I'm seeing them definitely making the move to online stores because it's getting harder and harder to keep those storefronts open right now, especially with the small local businesses because they don't have the luxury of being able to kind of amortize their profits across the store so that a store that's not making so much money can, share with this store over here that made a huge profit because they're like a standalone. They're at one store. So they charge a little bit more because they've got a little bit more overhead. And in an economy like this, it's really hard to convince people that, it's really still best to shop local because they know they can go to the mall and get those imported shoes for, $40, $50 less than they can at the local retailer because the local retailer isn't set up the same way. and how a lot of them are surviving.
Or Amazon.
Well, there you go, to that too. So how a lot of those people are surviving now. I have three friends actually, that have stores, clothing stores here in Edmonton. Is they're making the mad dash to get online. Threadhill did it last year already. Kim put her store online last year, and she also downsized. She moved her location. She used to be on 124th Street, which, parking is crappy and the rent is high. So she's moved down onto Lessard Road now so that it's more accessible. She's got better parking and her rent is less. So that's also a consideration in your planning.
I think if I can make one comment there, because I think, obviously we see that a lot. And the one, I guess, funny thing that I hear a lot is, unfortunately, stories of lots of people putting online stores on and just expecting sales to all of a sudden start rolling in.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Walter has the same experience. So I think that'd be the only cautionary tale there is, it's a whole different ball game, marketing a brick and mortar versus marketing an online store. And that, like we talked about earlier in this show here, that you need to have that upfront thought process and discovery strategy of how you're going to do that before you have big expectations for it. And you have to have a budget to do it too, or lower your expectations. It's one or the other. Because often I find they invest, lots to get this store up and running, but then they've left nothing to actually invite people to the party. So they don't meet their goals, and then they kind of are deeming it as a failure. So that'd be the only cautionary tale. Like, I agree that I'm seeing the same thing. Brick and mortar stores that they're choosing to, rather than opening another location, investing in opening an online store and going that route. But it's a lot of learning that they now have to go through, because they haven't even attempted any sort of kind of digital marketing approach in the past, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's some of the piecemeal stuff that I'm seeing come up, in my business, because I do social media. I don't do full digital like you do, but I know the social media platforms and how to use them. And so that's one of the big things that I'm seeing the shift to. Whereas before we used to be doing the big websites and, the fancy full meal deals, as you put it. Now it's, I want my store to survive, but the only way it's going to survive is if I diversify where my marketplace is. But I need help doing that. And so I can come in and I tell everybody, you have to give it at least 3 months. You're not going to see any phenomenal, any significant results at all for at least 3 months, because you've got to attract that audience. You've got to catch them and keep them and then convert that into something. And that is not going to happen overnight, not at all. You have to look at it for at least 3 months. But what I'm able to do, or, what they're looking for people to be able to do, is come into their business, get them set up on the appropriate social media platforms and show them how to use it. So, there's a lot more short-term contracts and that sort of thing coming up, but there's a lot more happening out there because people, I think, are starting to see that, they need to get onto that international stage, because if they stay local, they're not going to survive.
I don't know if, Walter, you see the same thing in Shannon, but I find that the big, I guess, disconnect is that, in their local brick and mortar, store, if you want to call it that, they've been there for 10 years, whatever, and people know their brand. And so they're able to sell just because people know where they are and who they are and what they sell. Mm-hmm. Then they go online and they're expecting to sell across Canada or across North America, but no one knows them outside of that one city.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly. The huge disconnect. They now have to figure out and learn how to build a brand beyond that one city, and they haven't thought through that at all.
What they need to do is they need to build. Not only do they need to build their brand, but they also need to build up their customers as well. Because like you said, nobody's going to know who they are because all they've done is sold locally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of these small stores, sometimes it's even a case that they're not really known that well outside of the neighborhood that they're in. Like when you go down to 124th Street, most of the people that shop on 124th Street are people who live downtown.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So
there's some new viewers. I guess just to reach out that if anyone has questions generally about any marketing topic, this is the time to ask. I think we only have a couple minutes
we got an open
remaining
mic
here.
thing going on here. So if you do have any, you know what?
Send us a quick question.
Yeah. Can you give another 5 minutes? 5 minutes?
Sorry. Oh yeah. No.
Okay.
Next week, I promise I'll be on time.
Yeah, you gotta stop that shopping.
Yeah, Walter can stay for half.
I know. Yeah. I'm becoming pretty tardy lately, so I was late. I was kind of late last week too. So
yeah, well, last week
didn't go over too good.
So and we've got that time difference too. Sometimes it's like one of the gentlemen that I work with. He's in England, and it's a 7-hour time difference. So I'm just like, you're always like, okay, I should know what 2 + 7 is, but okay, what time is it in England?
Well, you know what? The thing of it is, I'm gonna have to write it down because
we do have a question.
On Wednesdays it starts at 4:30 my time until 5:30.
Okay.
And I believe, and for you, I believe it's from 1 till 2.
Yeah, it's from 1 to 2 for us over here. Yeah.
Brian's
4:30
to 5:30.
Okay. All right. So we do have a question here. I'm a first-time author and am marketing my book. I'm on social media platforms except for Pinterest and Instagram. Any thoughts on the best way to use my time? Okay, so do you want to pop in? Do you want to ask to pop in? Because it's much more helpful. There we go. Hi, Lisa. Okay, we'll get to your question in just 1 second. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Hi, Lisa.
Good. So what social media platforms are you on?
Facebook, Twitter, Blab, Periscope. That's it.
Okay. So
I have my own Wix website, and yeah, that's really it.
Okay. And
are you not on Google Plus?
I think technically I'm linked to Google Plus, but yeah, no.
I don't know, Lisa, if this is where you're going with your question, but I think, the big step, it's easy to get on the social platform, but then what's your strategy to use it? And I think the big thing, if you missed the beginning of our discussion, is to go through that process of really identifying the personas, which is the term used, but which is who's your target audience, right? And you may have 3, you might have 5. But really understand who they are and kind of write those up in detail as much as you can. And then reassess the platforms and which ones fit which audiences. And then the next step is to really plan the content for each of those different personas, right? So build yourself, to simplify it, what ideally you want to end up with, in my opinion, because you're an author, is some sort of content strategy where you have a calendar of these are the topics you're going to write about on these months. And this is how frequent and when you're going to do the posting. And what your kind of outcome you're trying to get from each one is. So, example that I've seen work well in your type of field would be to have, some sort of goal of getting them to maybe download an excerpt from your book, right? So it's like a little mini taste. So you might, drive them to your site to read an interesting blog post about, a topic related to your book. And then right on the bottom or the right side, there's a nice call to action to, hey, download an excerpt and, get on my list or something like that. Just little things like that can work well. Get them into that sales funnel. And then you can always send them a few emails and give them those opportunities to get to know you better, right? Yeah. So I don't know how much of that you're doing, but that's a real high level taste of what I've seen work in your field. But
that's a good idea. Yeah, I have a MailChimp newsletter service set up.
Yeah, perfect.
But I have 3 followers and
I agree with the email.
Yeah, the email.
Sorry, Walter, what did you say?
I said I agree with the email, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing that I have used a lot with authors that I actually started when I first started in marketing, my whole target market was authors and speakers. They were doing book trailers. So it's just like a movie trailer, but it's for your book. And it doesn't have to be extravagant or hugely professionally done, but just that kind of that lead in and that build up to kind of create that interest. So you just kind of take them to the climax and then leave it and just make them want to come back to find out, what the rest of that is all about. So And with the, with the social media, I find Pinterest does work, but again, my advice is always, look at the social media that you're already on and have a look at your insights, your analytics, and that sort of thing. If something's not generating a decent enough audience for you, ditch it, because you don't want to stress yourself out and burn out on social media. That's not the point of social media. But because it's a book and everybody is so visual, I would suggest at least looking at Pinterest as an additional avenue.
I guess too, again, this is all high level without more exploratory, but I mean, two other things I would throw at you, and you may have heard this if you were on, I think you were on earlier, like one would be looking pretty heavily at retargeting. Both in terms of retargeting through like Google AdWords, but you can also do some Facebook retargeting. So, and really what all that is if you come up with that content plan and you're putting out some great blog posts and sharing that through social media and through your network, driving people and eyeballs to that content, then you get them onto that retargeting list, and then you can advertise your book to that list because you've now proven that they're somehow interested in the topics that you write about, right? And so it's a pretty relevant list to then advertise your book to. And the other thing that I would really focus some effort on is the actual landing page, right? So when you're driving people to actually buy your book, where are they landing, and is it awesome? To be blunt, right? Is it sexy and they want to buy your book? When they come to that page, oftentimes we don't put enough effort there, and that's where we could double, triple, your conversion rate and really get more buyers. A couple.
Definitely. You want an intriguing and inviting, right? So
like there's two. Real quick, because I think I have to bow out soon. But
no. Okay.
I can look to see if there's any other questions. But two platforms that you could look at, Lisa, would be like one is unbounce.com. Pretty awesome landing page platform. Also has a plugin for it next with WordPress, which most people use. I think you're on Wix, but you can still use Unbounce separately from that. Something to look at. It may not fit what your need is. There's also something called Optimizely. It's a little bit more tricky to work with for most people. May not be a fit for you, but the nice thing about Optimizely is that it allows you to do kind of landing page testing with your actual website without being a developer and coder. So it's kind of fun to play with, where you can test different headlines, test different photos, see which one gets better conversion. So anyway, there's a few real quick tips.
There's also so powerful. Like they can actually be more effective than a full scale website can be if they're done right. Yeah. Sorry, Walter, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say there's also a program called Scrivener. I'm not sure if you're using that.
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so hopefully we helped you. I hope that
thank you so much
for you. Yeah, no, thanks for popping
asking
in.
A question.
Well, we have another one over here, so we're going to let you go. But if you have any other questions, Lisa, just connect with us on Twitter.
Okay.
And we'll for sure be happy to get back to you and see what else we might be able to do for you if you find any glitches or anything else.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.
Bye.
Okay, so don't you think that social efforts are mostly ad hoc with most businesses today? Everyone has heard about social, but not many understand the use. And you know what? That goes right back to what you were saying, Brian, that there's a lot of people who do. They just jump onto social media because they think it's something that's expected of them, but they have no idea what they're doing with it. They're not converting sales. They're not, they've got huge amount. Oh, and then you get those people that fall into I'm just going to buy likes because most of those people live in countries that don't even understand the language you're using. Don't buy followers.
You know what? That's why you need a solid marketing plan. Because
someone's high-fiving you like.
Yeah, you just can't jump on there and say, okay, I got this for sale, and
don't buy followers resonated.
$50. Yours.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I made the comment there. Like, it all comes. I'm like a broken record, but it keeps coming back to who's your audience, what do they want, and then defining a very specific approach of how you use social media for those audiences, right? And what outcomes do you want? I think social media is great for different goals, but you need to know what your goals are. Is it an awareness goal? Is it a customer support goal? Is it a sales and lead generation goal, or is it, just building a resource community? Like, there's just so many different paths you can do with social media. And you need to know what that is before you just start randomly posting on multiple platforms. So put that upfront effort into it, and then you're going to be a lot happier because you know why you're wasting a couple hours a day. You need to know why you're spending that time. What are you going to get out of it, right? So,
well, exactly. Like no going to that next conference and sitting at the table with people you've never seen before in your life, telling you what social media platform you just have to be on because it's so new and it's so hot, and actually going home and doing it. Like, don't do that. Yeah. Think about it, look at it, examine it, explore what that social media platform is, and then compare it to what you know is your target market and where they're at, and then decide, do I really need to be there? Should I be there? Do I really need to add this to my stress levels? Or maybe not so much, because, just because somebody's using it and they say that they're getting great, reviews or whatever with it, that doesn't mean that they're turning into sales. Just because somebody says that they've got like 10,000 likers on Twitter doesn't mean that they're selling to 10 people. It just means that.
Well, what? Here's the thing about social media. A lot of people think you have to be on it, almost every site there is out there, but you really don't. No. Because I'm only on 4 social media sites, and I find that sufficient enough.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand too.
Find what fits you and then be great on it rather than being kind of average and crappy at 10 of them. So
it's your image, right? And if you can't do well, like however you are presented is their perception of your business.
Yeah.
So if your social media is disconnected and inconsistent, that's what they're going to think about your business.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're focused where you need to be. Yeah. And and I know you're probably going to bow out, aren't you, there, Brian?
I had scheduled till 2, so I have to.
I know.
bow.
Sorry, we ran a little bit later there.
But no, it's been great. It's been great. I've enjoyed it, and definitely anyone that has a question, feel free to do it on Twitter, and then I'm sure we'll do more of these in the future, right? So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm actually thinking I might switch it from 2 to 3 because we always get so many people come on in the last 20 minutes. Maybe 2 to 3 our time is a better look for people, a better way to get them on here. So, because we're like up to 21 people already. Now I got to sign off. So
yeah, it was great meeting you there, Brian.
Okay, so so that was Brian from Bluetrain. He's full digital. I'm social media, websites, graphic design, and events. And Walter, really quickly introduce yourself now.
You want me to introduce myself now?
Well, we close out.
Yeah, sure. My name is Walter Pedersen. I'm an internet marketing coaching consultant, and I help clients, people, and businesses grow their business online.
There you go. So Walter is a coach. So I think we had a pretty good perspective, like different perspectives here. I hope we got everybody's questions answered. If you have any more, just like I said, our Twitter handles are right there. So just find us on Twitter and send us a message, and we'll be more than happy to engage with you outside of this. In the interim, we will be back again next week with another topic. We're going to be getting more into the creative side of things. So we're actually going to start to dive into social media platforms, effective marketing for different types of professions, as we had today, an author or professional speakers or product providers, that sort of thing. So that's all coming up over the next few months here. So we've got, because I'm into planning, we have that all planned out for you. So,
you know what? We should have one on building trust and authority online.
Oh yeah, that's got to come up too. Yeah, you know what? Because my we're going to definitely have a few discussions around customer service. Because as far as I'm concerned, there is no better marketing tool than customer service. You can have a phenomenal gold star, marketing plan. You can have a fantastic product or service, but if you've got crappy customer service, whether it be online or offline, nobody's going to come back, so it won't matter. So we will.
Well, you know what they say? They say that your best brand is yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we are definitely going to have some very big discussions around that and actually developing, effective customer service programs, because it has to be, again, it has to be something that's planned. All your employees have to know what those mandates are and how to handle the situations and what's expected of them, because that's the face of your company. And it doesn't matter if they're handling a disgruntled customer on Twitter or if they're doing an exchange or a return inside your store. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's got to be consistent. So anyway, but that's all the time that we have for today. So we hope that you guys will all come back and join us again next week. Again, I'm thinking we're going to switch it to 2 to 3 MST, just because we seem to get so many people coming on at the last half of our show. So because we want to accommodate our audience, I think we're going to switch that time. But you'll just have to look for when I program it in, and we'll make sure that you all get messages that we're online. And
then you're gonna have to send me a list with the times then, because I'm gonna get all confused.
Yeah, no. I'll change everything and send you the outlines and everything like that, like I have it. Sorry I missed you this week, but yeah, very good. Yeah, if they listen to their own advice, we would know who they are. So true. Okay, so thank you all for coming into this week, and we will hopefully see you all again next week. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.